A childhood friend of mine who lives in a village and owns 11 hectares of land called me and told me that based on the example of the willow, the growth rate has tripled. When I asked how this was possible, he replied that this year the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has risen sharply and this will most likely lead to a disaster. I browsed the internet and found that scientists are indeed reporting this phenomenon. According to measurements taken by the United States National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration at the University of California, San Diego, it has reached a record level not seen in millions of years. It is reported that in the past, when carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere were this high, there was a giant forest growing. It is officially believed that the increase in carbon monoxide too is the result of human activity. Whether this is true or not, we will discuss further. We're being told this is a negative process we must resist. However, we have facts such as the positive effect of carbon dioxide on plant growth, and not only that. There are many references indicating that even in the Middle Ages and up until the catastrophe at the beginning of the 18th century, a race of giants also lived on Earth. Paintings, architecture, the burial of these giants. Many films and various other research materials have been released about this. The giant North American forests untouched by the last catastrophe were cut down by the late 19th century. According to some reports, mammoths could still be found until the beginning of the 20th century. It is claimed that an increase in the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere should lead to a rise in Earth's temperature, or on the contrary, today's temperature increase is releasing carbon dioxide that was trapped in permafrost. The inevitable result should be the melting of glaciers, which is happening now, and a new flood, which strangely enough we are not seeing. Even coastal cities on all continents are not flooded. That is, the ocean level has not increased by any significant amount, and this phenomenon also still needs to be explained. If coastal cities are flooded, it's because of stronger storms, not because of rising ocean levels. There is a huge amount of limestone and chalk deposits in the world, which probably formed as a result of carbon dioxide being deposited from the atmosphere. So, not so long ago there was a period when the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere was very high. The volume of green mass in the flora was much greater than today. Giant trees grew, dinosaurs and mammoths roamed, and a race of giant humans lived. And apparently no historian has ever called this a catastrophe. Therefore, we should figure out what is really happening today and what all this is supposed to lead to in the near future. So let's go over the facts of real abrupt climate change that have been recorded. Natural disasters have always happened, but the fact that their number has sharply increased in recent years is not being publicized. In 2010, an earthquake in Haiti destroyed most of Port-au-Prince. Reports estimate the death toll ranged from several tens of thousands to 100,000. No earthquake like that had occurred in over 200 years. There is a global climate change happening on the planet, and this cannot be related to human activity because energetically these processes are orders of magnitude greater than what humans are capable of. These processes can be called geodynamic processes occurring in the Earth's interior. Today, hundreds of leading scientists from different countries have been conducting their research for decades without relying on trends in official science. These are specialists in geophysics, volcanology, climatology, astrophysics, and many other fields. They study volcanoes, earthquakes, cosmic radiation, geological cycles, monitor and analyze information about all the processes taking place on Earth. They believe that 2022 has shown that the era of a planetary geological crisis is beginning, which they have been warning about for the past 10 years. Storms and hurricanes in the United States have gained unprecedented strength. Some cities have been almost completely destroyed by storm surges. With wind speeds reaching up to 250 km per hour, try sticking your head out of a car going 100 km per hour and you'll understand. The force of the wind is several times stronger. Recently, tropical storms and hurricanes have shifted noticeably from the equator toward the poles. The wind speed of Typhoon Noru reached 315 km per hour. For example, in the United States, the number of major storms has tripled over the past decade. Abnormal precipitation is rising globally, especially in Europe. In 2022, more than 100,000 maximum temperature records were broken on Earth. That is, overall, there is a steady increase in the average temperature around the world. It might seem like this is good for many regions, but all of this comes with major troubles and dangers. And it's unclear whether the temperature will stop at some level or eventually turn the area into a desert. In China, the heat of 45 degrees lasted for 79 days in a row. Nearly 1 billion people face severe hardships seeking shelter from the heat in bomb shelters. Recently, rivers and reservoirs in the Krasnodar region have dried and groundwater has fallen from 24 meters to 20. Local residents claim that this is a climate disaster, but there is nothing about it in the central media or on television channels. The same situation is happening in many regions of the planet. Drought is destroying the crops. About 2.5 billion people are facing a shortage of drinking water. In the last 5 years, the number of fires has increased sharply. Not long ago, there was no such thing as megafires. If they only happened in Russia, it could be blamed on the United States and their high-frequency active auroral research program technologies. But there have been 16 of them in the United States alone. In 2022, there was a sharp increase in megafires in Europe, which is 3 times more than in 2021. So we can objectively see a sharp increase related to the rise in average temperatures. Although, as we know, due to the cooling Gulf Stream, the United States and Europe should already be gradually freezing, something doesn't add up here. For example, in the Czech Republic in 2022, the amount of forest burned was 158 times higher than the average. Not only have there been many more fires, but now they also happen during the winter, and even in places where they never occurred before. What was predicted to happen by 2100 in terms of increased disasters already happened in 2022. The idea is spreading around the world that the cause of the impending disaster is the increase in carbon dioxide, which rises as a result of human civilization's activities. This includes the burning of oil, gas, coal, wood, and so on. However, no one provides comparative data on how much carbon monoxide too is emitted into the atmosphere by industry and how much by volcanoes, oceans, and as a result of permafrost thawing. Because this difference is so enormous that no one would seriously deal with carbon monoxide, 2 emission quotas, if they knew these numbers. But no, humanity is preoccupied with short-term gain, and whether it will exist in the coming decades hardly concerns anyone. However, it turns out that unnatural carbon monoxide, 2 emissions, are the cause of a sharp increase in cataclysms. And what about the heating of the Earth's mantle? No one tells us about that on television anymore. Let's look at the facts. Everyone knows that glaciers are melting, but not everyone knows that they are melting from below. Western Antarctica has a thinner mantle, so its heating is happening faster. Over 140 volcanoes have been discovered beneath Antarctica's ice, all in the western region. The intense melting of Antarctica's glaciers began in 1995. In that year, nearby is the Weddell Sea, and it is also being intensely heated from below by the Earth's crust. The region in the Brandfield Strait is very seismically active. According to one theory, a celestial body once fell here, tearing apart Antarctica and South America. Some Middle Ages maps don't show this strait. Watch the video on the channel Testimony of the Planetary Catastrophe of 1630-1686. The Earth's crust in this area is depressed and is hypertrophically seismically active. In just the first half of 2020, there were 85,000 volcanic eruptions here. For comparison, before 1996, no more than just 15,000 earthquakes per year were recorded on the entire Earth. The same thing is happening in Greenland. In 2019 alone, the glacier lost 600 billion tons and huge and numerous unfrozen lakes are forming under the ice. If this continues, Greenland will soon turn into a green country, just as its name suggests. Since it's obvious that it was named before the glacier appeared, and on medieval maps it is still shown without ice. There is also documentary evidence indicating that this territory froze gradually. Over the past 30 years, the rate of ocean warming has increased by 4 to 5 times. If people wanted to heat it up, it would require as much energy as a year's worth of explosions. That's equal to 7 Hiroshima-sized atomic bombs, 20 kilotons each, per second. Or you could distribute the equivalent of this energy as 30 nuclear bombs for every person on Earth, which is simply incomparable to the scale of human activity. And that's just one area near a single sea, and there are more and more such hotspots appearing on Earth. A large amount of carbon dioxide is dissolved in the ocean, and when it heats up, it starts releasing it. At the same time, the amount is so large that carbon monoxide, two emissions from human civilization, are minor in comparison. Most likely, the increase in carbon dioxide in 2022 was the result of this accelerated warming. It should be noted here that no matter how much water melted from the polar caps, the sea level did not rise, as if the excess had disappeared underground. Or perhaps it is regularly removed from the planet. If you imagine the disappearance of such volumes, it's no laughing matter. Forecasts indicated that melting glaciers would have already submerged thousands of coastal cities and islands and greatly reduced land area. But this is not happening. No one knows the reason. That's why no one asks such questions, to avoid giving ridiculous explanations. Due to these processes, since 1995 atmospheric parameters have changed, with humidity increasing. Clearly, before the 19th century there were different parameters and electrical saturation. It's uncertain if these processes will restore the parameters to their original state. If so, then a lot of technical devices of various scales, from pyramids to vajras, could start working, electricity could be drawn directly from the atmosphere, and so on. However, this outcome is unlikely, and it's uncertain if currently inhospitable areas will become mild and comfortable. Or maybe it will, but only after another catastrophe wipes humanity off the face of the earth, and by then it won't matter to us anymore. Seismic activity is rising along oceanic plate boundaries, with earthquakes in recent decades recorded at depths over 700 kilometers. Until now, this was considered impossible. The most powerful of the deep focus earthquakes occurred in January 2022. This is Kungatonga Kungakapai near the Mariana Trench. This animation shows earthquake growth up to and after 1995, highlighting their expansion. Now let's consider that another disaster has been added to this increase. Starting from 2015, the data obtained on the increase in seismic activity began to be falsified by people. These data started to come in incomplete, selectively. They began to be added to the wrong databases, so that the full picture would not be visible. And instead of raising the issue of global security somewhere at the very top, the planetary authorities decided to keep it quiet. In recent years, information has leaked and people have discussed relocating to Mars and making movies about escaping Earth. But now all attention has shifted to the prospect of a new world war. Maybe that's why they're ramping up the confrontation between the West and Russia right now. The truth is, no one can escape Earth. Problems need to be solved here, and everyone needs to survive, together. Ancient underground cities and intercontinental tunnels suggest past civilizations knew how to survive similar catastrophes. Of course, the elites are building and equipping similar already existing structures, but the survival of a full-fledged civilization with such secrecy and exclusivity is out of the question. For those who think that the changes taking place are made up, this can be verified. Seismic databases that reflect this picture are basically publicly available, and you can download them to check the reality of the increase in seismic activity, the rate of glacier melting, changes in the composition of the atmosphere, and so on. Well, and that's not all the troubles that are happening while we're busy with other things. With the increase in seismic activity since 1995, the magnetic field has been steadily weakening and the magnetic North Pole is shifting. And a lot of data has also been published about this. The trajectory of the planet's physical rotation axis is changing and shifting. The planet's rotation is accelerating in jerks. Well, flat Earth supporters would say that it's the sun that's changing its trajectory, which isn't good either. I've shown on the channel several times that the moon can rotate up to 110 degrees in a few hours. No media outlets comment on or mention this. Astronomers don't react either. To witness this firsthand without trying to explain it. The only explanation I have for such a lack of reaction is that it's forbidden to talk about this in scientific circles and in the media, just like with many other things that are simply off limits to even mention. Well, and if some blogger shows it, what can you expect from a crazy person? That's all they do, churn out fakes for the hype. According to official scientists, there has been a shift in the Earth's center of mass which caused a change in its shape. They ignore the moon but still calculated Earth's shape change. New zones of weakened magnetic field are appearing on Earth, and conclusions are being drawn that the Earth's core dynamo is stopping. Some movies depicted heroes reaching Earth's center and restarting the core by detonating an atomic bomb. So think about it. What are billions of atomic bombs worth, as we found out, compared to the explosion of a single atomic bomb at the center of the Earth? It's less like a mosquito bite to a human and more like a single cell among the countless unimaginable processes always happening in our bodies. I won't discuss the methods or knowledge these scientists used about the Earth. They will clearly cite satellite data, mathematical calculations, and make unfounded assumptions ending with the phrase, because it's logical. No one has seen the Earth's core, and no one really knows how the Earth is actually structured. They always miss something in these discussions. The key point is that they're all just hypotheses, even if scientific. During this period, similar processes also happen simultaneously on other planets and the Sun. From this, scientists conclude that these changes are the result of external influences on the solar system. What this cosmic wind is, or the influence of the center of the galaxy, no one knows. And here's another interesting fact that you won't hear about anywhere else. This will be interesting for those living in Russia. Over the past 20 years, the climate has been warming fastest, specifically in Siberia. The rate of average temperature increase is 4 times higher than the global average, meaning Russia is heating up much faster. And Rasputin's words that pineapples will soon grow in Siberia may come true. Unofficial studies suggest Russia's climate was moderately warm until the 18th century, with reports that Russia already supplied pineapples. But such exotic fruits were grown in numerous greenhouses. Therefore, it's unclear whether the climate will return to its previous state or if there will be completely different catastrophic processes. But in the last 10 years, there have been quite a few reports that major cataclysms are coming. Subtitles by Dima Tozok. World elites are aware of ongoing climate research. Moreover, at the supranational level, a program to cool the climate by creating artificial shading with chemical compounds sprayed into the atmosphere has been underway for several decades. This program receives many questions and complaints. It must be admitted that the muar from this spraying significantly weakens the sun's heat. But even here, humanity is unlikely to overcome the coming changes. Its resources are too insignificant compared to planetary processes. For a long time, Western elites have also considered relocating to Russia as the most seismically stable zone. But there is a problem. You can only settle Russia with your own people on your own terms, by replacing the government with your own or as a result of winning a war. European elites now say Ukraine's defeat would mean the end of Western civilization. So is it only about free oil that can be pumped from Siberia, or is it perhaps about physical survival itself? For several decades now, scientists have been sounding the alarm about the Yellowstone volcano, as elsewhere the number is rising there. Of earthquakes and the overall temperature, the magma is rising closer to the surface, and scientists conclude that just one such volcano would be enough to destroy all life on Earth. In Africa, we see the giant so-called Eye of the Sahara. There is a theory that this was a thermonuclear explosion of 1 gigaton, a mud volcano that spewed megatons of water and sand covering the territory of the Sahara. Or it could have been the fall of a giant meteorite. Whether that's true or not, it seems that this is what destroyed half of Africa. And interestingly, the Eye of the Sahara is located in Africa, roughly where Yellowstone is in North America from the Eye of the Sahara. And as for Yellowstone, if it erupts, then half of North America could also turn into something like the Sahara Desert. The author of the Elysium Channel, while reading English language periodicals in 2021, found forecasts for 2025 in NATO and European Union publications regarding the population size of countries and the gross domestic product of each country. The video is called Earth's Population by 2025, Forecast of Decline. He was surprised to see tables showing population declines in several countries, in some cases by as much as 3 times. If World War II caused a global population loss of 100 million by 2025, only 100 million people are expected to remain in the United States. How can 250 million people vanish so quickly, and where could they go? Across all countries, the plan is to reduce or lose several billion people. And it also states that by 2025, the population of Russia will still be 145 million people. I won't discuss inflated population numbers in all countries here. So there won't be a catastrophe in Russia and prosperity will come, or maybe the entire population will be wiped out and the surviving Westerners will move to the vacated territories. How do you like that scenario? Of course, the escalation of anxiety about an impending catastrophe could just be another piece of information to scare humanity once again. After all, it's through fear that the world government controls us now. How many invented apocalypses has our civilization survived in the past 150 years? And so far, all of this has turned out to be grandiose information dumps. Yes, large-scale, unimaginable, but not more large-scale than the creation of Earth's own history, where facts are ignored and new myths are constantly being created. All this is happening at the highest official scientific level. Another advantage of fueling the apocalypse is that it can't be opposed. It only increases anxiety among the population who can't do anything about it. To be continued. And you can understand the people. They've been deceived so many times that they've stopped reacting to deadly threats, and today they no longer pay attention to cries of fire. And the situation is truly apocalyptic. Large-scale changes are clearly happening on Earth, and it may face major transformations, similar to those that happened just 250-300 years ago when volcanoes erupted and parts of continents sank underwater and then rose back up. The global flood poured from the sky, oceans overflowed across continents, and the waters of underground oceans erupted to the surface. Facts confirm these scenarios described in the Bible, but there the flood is dated 11,500 years ago. So will all this happen again, or will humanity continue to live as if nothing happened, adapting to the new conditions? Who knows? But the most interesting thing is that all of us will soon witness these grand events.